Oh, hello there. It's me. It's your friend, Colin Shaw, from License to Watch Podcast. You know, I've been meaning to talk to you about something for quite some time. It's our License to Watch Patreon page. What is a Patreon? It's a place where you can contribute to helping us produce the License to Watch podcast. The Patreon is a place where you can donate only $1 a month, and in return, you will receive exclusive content, more time, more of our thoughts, more that you can share with us. How much is it? It's only $1 a month. Why should you do it? Because you want to. Who wouldn't? Where can you sign up? www.patreon.com/L2W. The letter L, the number 2, and the letter W. Some fine letters and a quality number, if you ask me. Well, I guess it's time to get back to the podcast. Have a great day.
The human adventure is just beginning. Gene Roddenberry was essentially ousted after the weak response from Star Trek the Motion Picture. Producer Harve Bennett took his place as the captain of this ship called Star Trek. Bennett, along with director Nicholas Meyer, a novelist turned filmmaker most notable for the 1979 film Time After Time, set out to make a new kind of Star Trek film, a Horatio Hornblower in space, focusing on more of a naval battle atmosphere with Kirk portraying a Captain Ahab type of sensibility. They also set out to put more of an emphasis on the character dynamics and less so on the special effects this time around. Upon watching the TV series for the first time in preparation for this film, Bennett discovered the episode entitled Space Seed and thought that episode's villain, Khan Noonien Singh, would make the perfect villain for this new film. Bennett felt that a major problem with the first film was that it lacked a central villain. The film is notable for killing off one of its leads, Spock, played by Leonard Nimoy, who famously no longer wanted to portray the character. News of Spock's death got out into the world before the release of this movie, upsetting Trekkies all over, some of whom wrote letters of protest. Originally planned to happen in the first few minutes of the film, a la Janet Leigh's character's death in Psycho, Spock's death was rewritten to happen at the very end of the film. Instead, the Kobayashi Maru sequence, in which Spock, along with the rest of the crew, are killed, was put at the beginning of the film as a way to defy the expectations of plot-spoiled fans. In the end, Leonard Nimoy had such a good experience that he asked if the producers could put some kind of clue into the end of this movie to imply a possible return in the sequel, which he inevitably did return for. Unable to afford to pay Jerry Goldsmith to return to score this film, the producers were forced to find a relative newcomer in James Horner, a 28-year-old up-and-coming music composer. Horner, who of course went on to have a massive career as a film composer, was chosen because his demo tape stood out among the rest. He was able to bring the bombastic elements of a score like the one for Star Wars and combine that with the original theme for Star Trek the Motion Picture, created by Jerry Goldsmith. Harve Bennett wanted the score to have a swashbuckling appeal, which it has in spades. The film opened on June 4th, 1982, and had the highest grossing weekend in history at the time, with $14 million. It went on to make $97 million worldwide, which is not as much money as the motion picture made, but this film was still more profitable in the end, due to its budget being considerably lower than the previous films. The film also achieved critical success and is credited with the revival of a dying franchise. However, not perfect. Some negative remarks mention the film's tepid battle sequences, its perceived melodrama, as well as some of the acting. Love it or hate it, it is now considered one of the best films in the series. So join me, Matt McGregor, along with my co-hosts Harris McCabe and Colin Shaw, as we climb aboard for the second adventure of the crew of the USS Enterprise in the Star Trek franchise of films. 1982's Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. This is a show about franchises, movie franchises. You're listening to License to Watch.
Why in the world was this movie made?
Welcome to the show. I'm Matt McGregor, and I'm here with my boys, Harris McCabe and Colin Shaw. What's up, fellas?
Nothing.
That's right. We're all in quarantine, and we all have nothing interesting to talk about.
You know what's up?
Well,
Star Trek is
yeah,
up.
exactly.
Yeah.
Star Trek is my life now.
Well,
Somebody save me.
Speaking of the theme song, Tim was telling me I should check out, I think, Creepshow 2 today, where he says that one of those cigar Indian statues comes to
Creepshow
life.
2.
and murders a guy. Creepshow 2? Yeah. It sounds fantastic.
But wait, does that have anything to do with the theme song, or just that Tim told you to check that movie out?
Well, he made the theme song.
Yes, I know. I thought there was more to
That
the
was the
story.
connection. It's tenuous, but
I sent him a picture of like one of those like Indian statues, but it's like it was decaying, like half of its face fell off, and he's like, that just reminds me of Creepshow 2, and I was like,
What's
okay.
that?
Yeah.
Joining us today is a friend of the pod, Mr. Josh Kadish. How's it going, dude?
Hey, not too bad. Just doing nothing as usual because of the quarantine and whatever fucking day it is today.
Yeah, no one knows. Today we are talking about the classic American film Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, I think it's pronounced.
Wrath of Khan.
I think you had to pause very dramatically before saying
The Wrath of... There we go.
Yeah. You know what? One of my life goals that I've never actually done is to watch Wrath of Khan while listening to Shaka Khan.
You haven't lived, my friend.
yeah, someday, buddy, someday.
I got to get that on and off of the bucket list.
does this happen while you're doing donuts around Comic-Con?
Wow.
Oh, wow. Driving while watching movies,
I went
though.
there.
Yeah.
Very very safe and practical.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I had a lot of thoughts about this movie. This is, I think, the first time I've seen it all the way through. I've seen parts
Really?
of it. Yeah. I think I've seen, obviously the famous, like, the end and him shouting Khan, and I've seen the beginning a bunch of times, but the whole middle section was all new to me.
Well, this is the first time I've seen it, and let me start this podcast out. I started off the last one by begging you guys to tell me that they wouldn't all be as bad as Star Trek the Motion Picture. And could I start this one out by just admonishing you and Colin for both being fucking terrible? I just want to explain how bad you guys are, because your scores for the motion picture are so ridiculously high. like that movie is clearly a 3. I bumped it up to a 4 just because I didn't want to hurt Colin's feelings. That movie is such a turd that you should both be ashamed of yourself for giving it a 7 and 8. You're basically saying that Star Trek the Motion Picture is almost as good as The Wrath of Khan. Whatever score you give this movie, it's going to be dangerously close to the score you gave the motion picture, and it just isn't. This isn't even close.
Not
This movie is so
remotely.
much fucking better, and it's insulting to The Wrath of Khan. And on behalf of all Star Trek fans and movie fans, I severely reprimand both of you for besmirching the legacy of this fine film by rating it so close to Star Trek the Motion Picture. It's shocking to me. Shocking.
I can't seem to recall what you're talking about at this time.
I myself have a pretty hot take as well, but I'll get into that as we go along.
Serving them hot.
All right.
I mean, do we want to, like, right out the gate, do we want to, like, talk about the plot of this movie instead of waiting 40 minutes to get into it? Do you want to?
Wait, we don't want to break from tradition too much. Shouldn't we meander around and talk about bullshit for a while? Or do you just want me? I mean, I just went on a very long monologue. Do you want me to talk for another 2 minutes?
That's true. I mean, did any of you guys watch Space Seed to bone up on this movie, to get the background?
I did.
You did?
I did.
I did not.
I enjoyed this. Yeah. I enjoyed this movie so much. I was like, shit, I got to see this TV show.
Damn, I didn't get a chance to. I really wanted to.
That's how they get you.
I think Space Seed is not top 5 episodes, maybe, but I don't think it is one of the top 5 episodes of the show, but it is a really good, prelude to this.
Is it Ricardo Montalban in the same role?
Yeah.
Oh, it certainly is.
Oh, yeah.
Very different hair, though. he looks and behaves like a slightly rapey Hollywood hairdresser slash like skeevy pickup artist who's like, he's constantly... There's this ship's historian in the episode, which I don't know why the ship needs a historian, but she's like this sexy redheaded lady, and he's
what do you mean you don't know why?
And he's constantly, well, Kirk even says like, let's get this ship's historian to come and talk about this artifact from the 90s. It's about time she started pulling her weight. He like makes jokes about how useless she is.
He doesn't know her name.
And then she immediately does that thing where she shows up and like her eyes get get like full of hearts, like literally, like it's like an emoji where her eyes are just hearts when she sees Khan because she's so in love with him. But like she's already in love with him. But then when he wakes up, he immediately starts negging her. He starts like bad mouthing her and shit talking her, and then being like, "Well, if you're just a stupid woman and you're too afraid to help me take over this ship, then whatever. I guess I'm not interested in you."
She's bringing him his breakfast, and he's like, "Damn it, woman. Coffee is a dish not best served cold."
I had to look up the origin of that phrase. Because, you know, for me, I know of it more from Kill Bill, which quotes this.
Right.
But I thought that was just an in-joke that Tarantino pulled that was like some Shakespearean thing, something that was written by Tennyson, 200 years ago. Mm-hmm. And in fact, like, the way that they phrased it is literally from this movie. It's kind of crazy to think that it's from an 80s movie.
Wait, you didn't find any previous evidence of the phrase being...
There's like similar phrasing, but it's not the exact way that this is worded.
It's weird too that he says that it's a Klingon proverb, which means that after he was on the original Enterprise and then got marooned and then got on the Reliant, he at some point studied another alien race's culture.
He ran into some fucking Klingon somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. He did have all those books. Maybe he had a Klingon book in there and we just didn't see it. It was like Moby Dick and Shakespeare and Klingon proverbs. That's like that was his reading.
Is it not assumed that he might have learned or studied this Klingon stuff like before he was marooned on the planet? Is that not?
Well, it's possible, but basically in the episode, he, they get him out of cryogenic freeze, and then they're like, oh, this guy is some kind of, genetically engineered conqueror. And in the show, they focus more on the eugenics part of it, and in the movie, they focus more on the genetic engineering part of it, which are two sort of separate things. Very similar, but could be separate.
Oh, and
that's not.
And on the show episode, they also, this is sort of relevant, they give him access to their ship's computer so he can look up everything that he ever needs to know, including the schematics of their ship and how to take it over. Like they have,
so that's what I was gonna say.
They're already suspicious about the guy, and then they're like, "Oh, here you have unfettered access to every piece of information in the universe. Brilliant, genius Superman who can lift me with one arm."
Yeah, so in an hour he learns how to take over the ship by reading everything they have.
Yep. He just looked up the chapter on how to take over the starship. And they were like, "Oh, damn!"
It's like in The Matrix when Keanu learns how to fly a helicopter in a blink.
Yeah.
Why did we write this chapter?
But speaking of the planet he gets marooned on, one of my favorite lines in the whole movie is when Chekhov is like, "That's not right. On Ceti Alpha 5 there was life," and he just turns around and he goes, "This is Ceti Alpha 5!"
That was great. That was great delivery. I feel like this is like two actors playing their characters at an 11 at all times, and it kind of it bizarrely works. like this is, I mean, honestly, Shatner carries this movie. He is the best part of almost every exchange and everything, and I don't think he's a good actor, but he is, like, he's got this incredible self-confidence that sort of just translates into charisma, like this totally unearned self-confidence that you just kind of are like, okay, I'm rolling with it. He thinks he's awesome.
And he's being just as weird as ever in this one. Like, all the weird stuff that he does, he's doing all of it. But he's much more compelling to watch somehow.
He's having fun too. You can see everyone's having fun in this movie.
It's true. And I think it's also like, it's one of those things where you play a role long enough and the character becomes the actor and vice versa. And it's like, you kind of can't separate the two, and it's much more forgiving. Like they know that person better than anyone else possibly could. And so it just feels right because you've seen them do it for so long, and especially here, but yeah.
So this is kind of my opinion, but this is what I think happened. I think they got Star Trek the Motion Picture and they were like, "Oh, we have an opportunity to do a movie, but we have to play these same characters again that we did on TV for years." Then they made this movie, and their attitude across the board, I feel like, was much more, we can cement the legacy of playing these characters through making this film. You know what I mean?
Yeah, mythology's huge.
Yeah.
I would go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I feel, I mean, you guys talked a little bit about Star Wars and kind of the relationship to that, to the motion picture, but I feel like that played, and Empire Strikes Back especially, played an even bigger part in the way that this movie was kind of made and formed, and sort of the thematic shape of it, where Star Wars is so much more about mythology and less about ideas. And I mean, it is a fantasy in the trappings of science fiction iconography, whereas this is true sci-fi. But between like the fact that he's quoting Melville and he's quoting Shakespeare, and there's this like there's age to kind of all these old wounds and these grievances and everything like that, it feels more mythic. It feels larger than life, and that's why I think like the over the topness of the performances really works in its favor.
And why like that original TV episode was pretty good, but perfect for setting up something like this,
Right.
especially with Ricardo Montalban just doing what he does,
Killing it.
with his chest and everything.
I'm glad you. Oh my God, we have to have a long conversation about his chest. But I'm glad you mentioned ideas, because this was something that disappointed me about the first movie. One of the many things that disappointed me about the first movie was that it's like I always thought Star Trek, and having never watched a show or anything, I always thought this was like the smart nerds show, because it was about these ideas and these philosophies and these conflicting, personality types, and it had this dynamic that I thought just was not present at all in the original movie. And in this one, it's there everywhere. It's all about big ideas and big conflicts, and but at the same time, it's more of an adventure movie too, whereas the first one was a little dry and just very austere.
Slow.
Yeah.
And slow. This one was paced like an adventure film, and it had action, and it had, and it got, we talked a little bit about this last time, where it was very focused on Kirk and McCoy and Spock, and this one was as well, but it gave everyone else sort of a little more screen time, and it gave them all moments,
Absolutely.
Except for Uhura and
Sulu.
and Sulu,
Right,
yeah.
right.
Uhura gets to over and over ask if they're at Regula 1.
Right, if they can
Still
read
playing
her
in the background.
Yeah, she's like on a loop.
Regula 1, can you read us?
I love when
Regula 1, can you read us?
I love when Kirstie Alley's like, "Yes, we're here. We got it. Stop calling us."
Yeah, exactly. I love that.
It totally like just sent me straight back to Galaxy Quest and Sigourney Weaver saying, "That's all I do is read the fucking computer."
That was one of the things that reminded me of Galaxy Quest. The other one was when she takes the ship out of the dry dock at the beginning, and it reminded me, like, it was directly spoofed by the Galaxy Quest scene where they're guiding the ship out, and it starts to like list to the left, and everyone's head just sort of tips, and they're just like, and then it starts scraping up against the side. I was like, that's exactly what this was.
Speaking of that scene, do you like how they did the spaceship porn and him going up to the Enterprise, but edited way fast?
They cut like 13 minutes out of it.
Yeah,
They even use the same footage.
yeah. It's like
It's a lot of the same footage.
Yeah, it takes like an hour in the first movie. It takes like 10 minutes in this one.
And it's the exact same idea, just better executed. I mean, really, like, I swear, I was so mad at you guys from the opening moments of the film when it's just the stars and the titles coming up, and I'm like, and it's like the music that actually references the old theme music rather than be entirely new music, and I'm like, this is already a much better movie than the last one. How could they give the last one a 7 and an 8 knowing that this movie is out there? Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
You gotta like slow movies. Sometimes, do you ever get out of the movie theater and you're just like, I just wish that movie was slower and more boring?
You just like, man, I wish I could have napped more without missing anything in that movie. It's like I was really having to choose between my sleep and watching the film, and I really want to have my cake and eat it too. That would be my poster for Star Trek: The Motion Picture, is the movie you don't have to be afraid to fall asleep during.
I really do like a slow burn though. Sometimes I know Matt.
Sure, when there's intention.
I enjoyed the first one too. No, I think the first movie's really good. I think Harris has given it a tough time here. It's it's not the greatest movie of all time, but I think for what it did, it took its time, and it really, allowed you to take it all in. Whereas I wouldn't call this movie fast. But like we just watched First Contact recently, and I feel like that one just like gets right into it, where it's like it's just so fast, you know.
It's a '90s movie too, you know, that's when MTV's prevalent and everything. But I mean, I sort of feel like the motion picture existed in a time before the modern blockbuster, and you know, everything post Jaws, post Close Encounters, post Star Wars, post Raiders is like those movies are structured differently, and they look different, and they feel different, they move differently. And this moves more like those movies than it does like motion picture.
Yeah, and the story they chose to tell is more ambitious in a way that I feel like they did get really ambitious when they decided to make a Star Trek the Motion Picture. But in this, they decided to get ambitious with the story and say, we're not just going to do something that's like an episode of the show. We're going to do something that's more about like building up some of the characters and stuff that we already have.
Yeah, there was less story in Star Trek the Motion Picture than there were in most of the TV episodes. Like there wasn't 50 minutes of story in that 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
This one had, you know, the right amount of I think they just focused on making it entertaining, which I think was a real step in the right direction for the franchise.
And there's two stories too. It's Khan and then also the Genesis thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the story behind the scenes is that after the first movie was received kind of poorly, with the same criticisms that we're talking about here, that it was bloated and too long or whatever, everyone seemed to agree that it was Gene Roddenberry's fault. And so they the executives for this, you know, basically forced him out and said, like, someone else needs to take the reins on this. And that's why
it's like when DCF takes an unfit mother's baby away. Nobody wants to do it, but sometimes it's for the best.
That's the most relevant comparison.
It was honestly, it was the only way to get the Star Trek franchise through high school.
Oh man,
Wow.
why are you taking us to such a sad place?
All right, you want me to do my thing now?
Yeah,
I
Yes,
have not
please.
I have not thought or practiced this as much as the last one, so this could be interesting. All right, you gonna time me?
Nope, I'm gonna just play the song.
What? Okay. All right. Okay, we open with the Starship Enterprise, and Spock and Bones and Uhura and the whole crew from the original show are there. But the captain of the ship is a woman. So once all the incel fanboys have finished angrily storming out of the theater, we learn that the whole thing is actually a simulation. Captain Kirk comes out and he sasses McCoy and he flirts with Spock, and everybody's having a grand old time. And then we cut away to a galaxy far, far away where Mr. Chekhov and Captain City Confidential are working with the science team of scientists on the Genesis project. And they're checking out this planet that's not supposed to have any life on it, but they run into this guy named Khan, who's rocking this granny biker hair and huge pecs, and he puts these mind control worms in their ears and makes them tell the science lady that Captain Kirk is going to take her science project. So Captain Kirk and the rest of the gang are cruising around in the Enterprise, and he gets a distress call from the science lady, who's like his ex-girlfriend also, and he goes, oh, we got to check this out. But before they get to the science place, they run into the Starfleet ship, and they like think it's cool, but it's actually Khan, and he ambushes them. And they're pretty much dead because their engine is blasted and they can't move. But then Khan is like gloating and everything, and Kirk and Spock trick him and make their shields of their ship go down so they can blast him and escape. So then they go to this science place, and all the science people are dead, except Kirk's science ex-girlfriend and her science son, who's actually Kirk's science son also. And then Chekhov and Captain City Confidential are there too, and they betray Kirk, and Captain City Confidential shoots himself, and Chekhov's earworm leaves for some reason. So then Khan steals the Project Genesis, and he strands Kirk on the empty planet, and Kirk has this iconic scream, but then Kirk and Spock trick him, and the Enterprise is actually working better than Khan thought, and it beams Kirk and everyone else aboard, and they make a run to this nebula where shields don't work, and Khan follows them there, and they have this ship duel, but Kirk wins. But just before he dies, Khan sets off this Genesis device that's going to blow everything up, and Spock has to sacrifice himself to save the Enterprise, but actually there's no way that he's dead, and it's pretty much just, you know, like, look out for Spock in the sequel. The end.
Holy shit. You deserve the Nobel Peace Prize for that.
I did it.
Some of my favorite parts, quote, he sasses McCoy and flirts with Spock.
I feel like it's very accurate.
And iconic.
Yeah, super accurate. I love McCoy. How was my performance? He's like laying on the floor like that. Oh yeah.
What did you call the guy? City Confidential?
Yeah, City Confidential. It's what's his name? Paul Winfield. Yeah.
Paul Winfield.
The voice of City Confidential, and he's out and he's just like, the second he started talking, I was like, oh man, I love that City Confidential voice. it was a dusty morning like any other in Centauri whatever.
He's so good in this.
Yeah,
He's convincing.
and he looks legitimately tortured when he has to shoot himself.
Yeah, exactly. Legitimately tortured when he has to shoot himself. Also, I love that you called it the science place, because when I was growing up in Dallas, they used to have a place called the science place, and they would have like lock-ins for kids where they would,
Were they in the belly of a planet?
It was like, have you ever been to one of those like kids museum kind of things where it's like interactive?
This is like where like they had
experience.
Jesus riding the dinosaur. And, this is Texas, so the science was a little bit murky.
It was real science.
Like about half.
They probably tore that place down.
Half
though.
the science was about the Alamo, and then eventually they did burn it down. They're like, too much science. Our kids can't learn this much science.
I want to believe that it's still there, but I am afraid that it's after many years of some Republican lawmaker railing against it, they eventually just tore it down or something.
Yeah, they're like, instead of just tearing all the pages out of the science book, we can just burn the science place to the ground.
Yeah.
These kids don't need books; they need guns.
Yeah. Make sure you burn it down in front of them.
All right, so we've hit a lot of good points already about this movie, but I think one of the standouts of this movie, at least for me, are the costumes. Maybe we could get into that.
I love the Starfleet unis in this. I think they are super tight.
It's the red shirts.
The flap. It's
the flap too. Yeah, that moment
Yeah.
when Kirk pulls it off and his lapel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and when the guy dies and he gets the blood.
When things are getting serious, when Kirk has to remove his lapel.
Yeah. When he undoes the flap, like,
unflaps.
it's on. Yeah. But when the guy
They just
dies,
look really warm.
When the guy dies and like he gets the blood on the flap,
yep.
it's like, it's heartbreaking.
and then he changes
Get
flaps.
the blood on the flap. Yeah.
I love talking about bloody
The
flaps
flaps
on
are
this show.
This has been Flap Corner.
Oh my god, I love those flaps.
This is going to be the best present we ever give Colin one day on his birthday. It's just his own Star Trek flap uniform.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's brilliant.
When I was a kid and I saw they switched to the uniforms with the flap, I was like, "What is that? It's a flap." Oh
shit. I have to have flaps on all my clothing now.
What is the purpose of it, though? It doesn't look like it provides more ventilation, like for climate control or whatever. It's like this is like for when you're cold and then you rip it open.
It's
when
like an
you're too hot.
anti-security blanket.
Yeah.
It just makes a perfect white square on his chest. And then I like how his son's outfit, it like goes across like this. It gives the impression that he's wearing overalls, but has one of the overalls like undone, like a farm boy or something.
That's adorable.
That's what he looks like to me all the time.
Well, he grew up on a science farm.
Yeah.
When they go on the away mission and they've got those giant jackets on with the collars that go like way above the ears.
That was
those are
straight
awesome.
from 1982.
I also liked a lot of the hairstyles in this movie. I feel like again with the son, he's got the tight curly like Justin Timberlake blonde hair. I feel like that's a hairstyle that only existed in the late 70s and I guess
It's Roger Daltrey, yeah.
Ricardo Montalban's character goes from like having a like jet black on the show he had the jet black, I don't even know what you'd call it, but it's just like this giant ponytail, and in this he is rocking like the granny biker do.
It's like an epic mullet.
Not to mention their outfits are all like cable knit Mad Max.
I love the shots of Khan and his people on the bridge of the Reliant.
Oh yeah.
Because his people are clearly not doing their jobs. They're just posing. They're just posing for the picture, which they shouldn't know is happening.
They're the only ones aware that they're taking a family photo.
He's just like, they have to know that I'm your leader. So whenever we're communicating to the other ship, I want you to stand behind me. Sort of, you pose like this, you pose like this. We need to do this. We need to do this to intimidate Kirk.
Like an album photo.
Yeah.
I love that his number one guy is always like, you don't have to do anything to Kirk. Like, we could just go. We have the Genesis. We have the money. We have the power. We have everything. And he's like, fuck you.
That guy is one of my favorite tragic characters in like all movies. He's just like, we did it. We fucking made it off of Seti Alpha 5. We can do anything we want.
The world is our oyster. We're genius supermen with our own fucking spaceship. Let's go fuck shit up. And Khan's like, yeah, I just gotta mess with this one chubby guy with a hairpiece, please. First.
And they steal Genesis. They have the ultimate doomsday weapon slash the ultimate creative power.
They could go create their own planet and go like bring their people back.
Let me make
they
that
have everything.
Let me make that guy slightly more tragic for you. The actor's name is Judson Scott, and I had a hard time looking that up. I had a hard time looking up Judson Scott because Judson Ernie Scott, apparently his managers insisted or held out on signing off on his credit and wouldn't sign off on him getting credit for the role because
I read about this.
they were going to negotiate for a better credit later. And what happened was they never did, so he is uncredited in this role, which is like his biggest movie role that he ever had as an actor. It's by far the biggest thing he's ever been in, and it's not even on his IMDb page because he is listed as uncredited in the IMDb credits as well.
Oh, man.
And he's like one of the biggest roles in the movie. And I was like,
probably went into.
I was trying to. The only reason I know this is because I was like, who is this guy, and why can't I find his name in the credits? Because I was looking up all the actors like I do, and he has this weird, like, kind of like pretty boy William Fichtner look to him, and that is the reason why. Tragic, hubris.
Maybe it is William Fichtner.
Probably.
Maybe he's a duplicate or a doppelganger or something.
Yeah, maybe he is. Maybe an older brother that he's like, learn from my mistakes. Just take the credit, whatever you can get.
And be in every crime drama from here until 2020.
He probably went into his agent's office and he's like, I got a movie role. The sky's the limit now. We made it. And the agent's probably like, no, not until we get Kirk.
we could do everything. No, I'm getting you billing above Shatner, damn it, or we walk.
Your name will be the movie.
I just looked it up to confirm, but I actually know a guy named Judson Scott. I'm friends with him on Facebook. It's a guy I used to intern with a long time ago. It's fucking weird.
Is this him?
No, he was like a young guy. Maybe it's his son.
Did he seem
Judson
bitter?
Scott Jr.
Maybe.
Did he seem very angry and bitter?
He did, kind of.
Judson Scott Jr. He's like, my legacy. I'm here to reclaim my legacy. It's a revenge of Judson Scott.
You interned with him?
Yeah, he was an assistant and I was an intern at a production company.
So he already had the job?
Yeah.
So he kept coming up to you like, we already got the job. We made it. And you were like, no, not until
I work here. I get a paycheck. We can stop.
Oh, man. I love that character. He's so good.
Another, like...
And then in the end, he's just like, I was your superior. You did it.
Yeah. Well, like, I couldn't tell. Was he being sarcastic? Was he rubbing his face in it? It sounded like, because logically, what he's telling the guy is, you're superior when they're all dead. It's kind of like, I don't know. Are you just fucking with me now?
I think he was trying to come to terms with why he had died when they fucking had everything for a moment.
Tell me this means something. Tell me this wasn't just you being an idiot.
Yeah.
Another familiar face. Did you guys catch like one of the, I don't know what you call him, like guy who arbitrarily pushes buttons on the bridge of the ship, like
Red shirt
guy? Yeah, he had dark hair. Did you guys spot who he was?
Who was it?
He's
no. Was it Adam Scott again?
No, I wish. A young Adam Scott. He's like 6.
But he looks exactly the same.
Have you guys seen Christmas Vacation?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you remember that they live next door to Julia Louis-Dreyfus and her boyfriend?
Yep.
He's the boyfriend.
Oh, is the boyfriend?
Wow.
Oh my god.
And I looked it up, and that
Cool.
guy his name is, wait, I have it right here somewhere. His name is Nicholas Guest. He's Christopher Guest's younger brother.
Oh, that makes sense.
No way.
Yep.
You know, the other familiar face I saw, Escape from Witch Mountain Boy, is the little cadet who gets blown up and what's his name carries him up to the bridge in his dead body. That's a kid from Escape from Witch Mountain, which I feel like is falling on deaf ears here. Nobody.
I heard of it. I haven't seen it.
I'm
Wow.
I'm sorry, Harris. Witch Mountain?
Nicely done.
Quite organic right there. All right, let's talk about the music of this movie. Obviously, I played a little of it while Harris was doing his recap, but I mean, they went in a different direction from the last film.
A cheaper direction.
Why is that? Why is that?
Because
well, it's James Horner was at the now this is, by the way, in the first movie, I think when I was talking about the people who made it and we talked about Jerry Goldsmith did the music, and I think I just said like IMDb him because he's done way too fucking much for us to like list what his credits are. Jerry Goldsmith did like everything. James Horner is another one where like,
oh yeah,
he did he's one of the biggest composers in the history of, you know, movie music.
But you're saying after this movie,
but this was like his first big get. Like he had done some stuff before this, and he went on to do Field of Dreams and Glory and Apollo 13 and Braveheart and Titanic and Aliens and just a shit ton of stuff. He's actually kind of controversial because he's been accused of ripping himself and other people off frequently, which I think for ripping yourself off, I don't really. But like a lot of
I thought all composers did that.
Yeah, they kind of all do, which is why I think it's a little overblown. But like some people knock him for like taking famous classical themes or famous, you know, like themes from other movie composers and then working them into his stuff, and it skirts the line between homage and theft. And this one, in fact, I think I read somewhere like was stealing from one of his previous compositions,
Wolfen,
and also was taking some inspiration from the original show and some classical music and stuff. Which I feel like for composing the scores from movies, I feel like you should be able to kind of steal liberally from stuff that's out there a little bit, and he has and made a good career out of it. But also, again, another way this movie is much better is the score is. I thought it was very good.
It's incredible.
Well, it's funny you say that because as I was watching it, I was like, you know, I don't know who scored this movie. I wasn't paying attention for the credits, or maybe they didn't show it in the beginning. I don't know. But as I'm listening to it, I'm like, this sounds a lot like the score from Aliens. Even like instrumentation and like some melodies and whatever. There's like a lot of similarities. And I'm like, I bet you this is James Horner.
Well, he scored Aliens, and B, one of the scores he's accused of ripping off is the Alien score.
For this as well, right? Which was Goldsmith.
Yeah, exactly.
That's your
exactly. Like it's very cyclical. Like he's Well, you know, I read in all my reading about this. I heard that when they hired him, they said he wasn't allowed to use any of not because of legal reasons, but they just said don't use any of the score from the first movie. We want to separate ourselves from that entirely.
You know what one of my favorite things to do is you know, like you can take any pop song and they're so, you know, formulaic. You can be like, oh, this song is basically just this other song that's already been made. And then, you know, you say that, and then when somebody's like, oh yeah, they like hear it, they agree, you're like, yeah. Basically, you know, the thing with music is there's about 3, maybe 4 songs ever made, really. You know, like,
yeah, it's kind of all the same chords and chord progressions.
Well, I mean, it has to be like that. Like mathematically, there's, you know,
it's true.
There's like an infinite number of combinations, but there's only so many.
There's only so many that work.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Horner. I mean, you were talking about how, you know, some composers are accused of stealing from themselves. Horner like has one of the most distinct sounds where, as you were saying, Matt, like you listen to like 5 bars of any of his pieces and you know it's him instantly.
Yeah.
Plus, there's this riff that he has that he repeats in every fucking movie that I and my friends from high school were obsessed with. That's in this movie, and I think it might be the earliest version of it I've heard. It's the da-da-da-dun. It's literally in every one of his scores. And it's like every time that I would sit in the theater and you know, I knew that he composed something for it, I would just wait for that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
All that being said, music is awesome. This score is awesome.
Agreed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Agreed 100%. Yeah. I mean, seriously, from the second the movie came on and the opening, like it went from the TV theme to the actual score, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like, I was so thrilled that I was getting a, it's funny too, because most of the people who worked on this, James Horner, beginning of his career, the editor, the writers, the DP, they weren't big. Like, this was probably the most anonymous crew that I think they were all hired because they were probably cheap. The director, Nicholas Meyer, was not he didn't do a lot. He had only done, I think, the 7% Solution, which he only got to direct because he had wrote the novel it was based on.
And Time After Time. We had to talk about Time After Time.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. But like, these aren't like the most accomplished people. And I think it was because they were trying to do everything on the cheap, because they weren't happy with the first movie, and they were like, how cheap can we make a sequel to cash in? And somehow they stumbled on like gold, because everyone kind of nailed it in this one.
But yeah, it is like one of those kind of magic scenarios. Like you can't really tell why, but all the right ingredients are in the right place at the right time, and everyone's hungry enough and and wants to do the best work. And it's usually because of limitations too. Like there's so many great movies, so many stories about great movies that went either had to be made in a really small window, or had to be made with like a lot of concessions to the budget, or had to reuse sound stages and everything like that. I mean, this movie had a third of the budget of the first movie, and reused plenty of VFX shots and plenty of art direction. And like, I think that I read that a few of the sets were redressed in the same way. I think that the bridge of one of the ships was used as the science lab that Kirk's ex-girlfriend is at.
Well, yeah, I heard the same thing, and I heard that it was the underground place that they did. I think they just flipped the set upside down,
right? Yeah,
of a previous thing, and just dressed it upside down, which I think is like really interesting, because I thought the sets were really good considering how much smaller the budget was. Whatever they cobbled together, it was all convincing, and I thought all the science area sets and all the obviously it was mostly 2 starship bridges, which how hard is that? But like everything else they did, I thought really worked.
There's a little bit of like a nod to the set in the creation of the Kobayashi Maru simulator, because they reveal that it's a set, basically.
Right,
right.
Right.
I mean, like,
and I didn't know that. It was reading up on this after I just read somewhere that I think this is the first time that they mentioned the Kobayashi Maru exercise, which, as somebody who doesn't follow Star Trek and doesn't give a shit about Star Trek and doesn't know anything about it, that's something that I knew from the Star Trek mythology, just because has kind of seeped into popular culture. And it kind of blows my mind that this originated in this movie and wasn't something old school from the TV series.
But
go ahead.
It's an important part of the movie.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Well, it's just that they kind of redo it in the Star Trek remake, the J.J. Abrams one. They bring it back, so maybe that's why.
Oh yeah, right. I mean, the J.J. Abrams sequel, I didn't realize it plays off on this in so many ways.
Too much.
It's a little like
It's
a little like the what was the second of the newer Star Wars movies?
The Last Jedi.
Yeah, the last Jedi. That's right. Because I feel like that one was sort of like the first one was like a total homage to the first Star Wars movie, and then the second one they were inverting a lot of the ideas. And I feel like the J.J. Abrams remake sequel was sort of trying to do the same thing there, of like inverting a lot of the, like, Kirk sacrifices himself instead of Spock at the end, and they had a lot of things that they were doing that sort of were for people who were familiar with Wrath of Khan, I think probably appreciated it more, that they were calling back to elements of this than somebody like me who was just watched it and was like, yeah, I guess it was fine.
I think fans of Wrath of Khan hated it more.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I why they were trying to do it for their benefit, and that's why it's kind of hilarious that it blew up in their face.
It's a backfire. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. After watching this today, I continued to think often about how much I do not like Into Darkness.
Yeah, it's a stupid title. It's a stupid movie.
For the record, I like the J.J. Abrams ones. They're very different kind of movies.
No question.
And I am, if I was picking between Into Darkness and Wrath of Khan, there's no question. The Wrath of Khan is so much better. I was amazed at how much I enjoyed this movie, especially after the turd that I had to sit through last time.
I'm amazed too, quite frankly, and I don't know. I feel like. Sorry, go ahead.
But Into Darkness, in comparison to this, to me, like I like Star Trek Beyond, and the original Star Trek remake is fine, but
It's definitely
I
the
do
nadir.
not like.
Yeah.
I feel like it's another whole feeling. Like, you know, you're like you're still like I still like the J.J. Abrams movies, but to me it's like I only like them with the caveat of you have to say Into Darkness is not good. You know, like to me, I mean, a big part of it was I really love Ricardo Montalban in this role, and to me, Benedict Cumberbatch brought. It's like he wasn't trying.
Well, also, let's just point out for a second that this is a character that is supposed to be an Indian guy who it was on the series. You know, his name is Khan Noonien Singh, and he was supposed to be Indian. And on the original series, they put Ricardo Montalban in brownface, which thank God they did not feel the need to brownface him up in this movie. But then, of course, they completely whitewash him and turn him into like the whitest of every white guy in the and it's like he's still the same character, and they like justify why he's actually a white guy now rather than just cast an Indian actor in this famous the Indian role. It's kind of inexcusable, the Benedict Cumberbatch. Yeah. They had an opportunity to kind of right the wrong of brown facing Ricardo Montalban in the original by actually casting an Indian actor in the remake. I guess that would have given it away. But I mean, the twist wasn't that great anyways. So
yeah.
And they also asked him to play a character that they took away everything about the backstory.
No, he's a facsimile.
You know,
he's
like he's still
It's
genetically engineered, and you know, because of that wants to conquer everything. But like it's important that Khan and the woman who becomes his, like, you know, that weird relationship they have in the first episode, the first iteration, that relationship is important. Him being frozen from another time where, like, he believed, I don't know, the way they talk about, you know, Khan's time that he comes from, the 1990s, which is funny, but the way they talk about it is, you know, you see like a group of people who believe they were a ruling class, and they tried to subjugate, you know, the entire planet, and then started warring with each other and using these people. And you know, talking about those things is part of what Star Trek is about. You start talking about, like, oh, like there's tyranny, that's an idea that we can talk about and talk out and stuff like that. And no, fuck that for Into Darkness. We just needed to be the bad guy, you know, like,
right, yeah. It's fulfilling a blockbuster role. I mean, I don't want to turn this into Darkness pod, but do you guys know about, like, that movie is where the screenwriting relationship between Alex Kurtzman and Roberta Urci just completely dissolved because they were getting so many demands from the studio. And that, I remember reading like a piece with them where they were talking about how there's that shot in the trailer where the Enterprise is falling through clouds, and eventually it's going to, I think it's in San Francisco where Starfleet is. And that was only in the script because they demanded it be in the trailer. And so that was like the first time that I was aware of, like, studios are mandating that screenwriters include this stuff, like specific images that they can market the movie around just to get butts in seats. Even though it makes,
it's why sometimes you see stuff in trailers that never makes the cut of the movie because the filmmakers are like, I can't use this.
Yeah. No, but every story I've heard about that movie and the production of it is like a nightmare. And I think they barely crossed the finish line in making it too.
Well, then it's incredible that it turned out as watchable as it is, which I think it's for all the reasons Colin sort of, illuminated. It's not a great movie, but it's at least watchable, which, seeing as it was kind of a disastrous concept, I guess they pulled it off kind of.
It also does the dumbest thing of, like, they kill off a main character, which this movie does pretty well. You know, wow, it's impactful. He's dead. Will he be back in the next movie? Maybe, and we can hint at that. But Into Darkness just brings him back, like, in the next scene or whatever, like by the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no consequences. And
right.
it's
it's
the problem that, like, in my opinion at least, the Marvel movies get into, where it's like everything is consequence free because you're thinking more about what can we do in the next one? How can we bring these people back? how can we ensure that, all these cast members are locked down for a 5-picture contract or something like that, because they're trying to feed the piggy bank, so to speak. But
yeah. I mean, I saw this movie.
It makes for worse movies.
I saw this movie for the first time when I was, a little kid, and I fucking cried. I was like, how could they do that? How can he die? Like, I've only ever seen, cartoons, and I've only ever gotten the impression that this was a very melodramatic show. And I was like, how can he die? And I remember like my dad being like, do you know what the third one's called? And I'm like, no, I don't know anything. Like, it's called The Search for Spock. And I was like, oh.
I thought Spock's death was really affecting. I was surprised how much, and I don't know. I think it's mostly the situation more than the performances, because I don't think either of them really. I don't think there was a lot to do with those performances, but I think the situation made it really kind of emotional. And of course, Kirk's eulogy he nails that.
Yeah, sorry, I know I'm talking a lot, but that's it. I was saying, this is Set the Alpha 5.
Mm-hmm.
That's like one of my favorite quotes from the whole movie.
Yeah.
My other favorite quote from the whole movie is, of all the souls I've ever known, his was the most human. And like, honestly, it's Shatner.
So Shatner.
Peak Shatner.
It's the peak. It's the ultimate peak to me. Like, that scene is the greatest. Because it's working. Like, I'm there. I'm like, this guy's fucking dead, and it hurts.
It's
but I'm
too
also like,
much, but it's the right amount.
Yeah. But I'm also like, oh man, he's really choked up. It's kind of funny.
And then
Go ahead. I was just gonna say, I don't know if it was that scene in particular or other stuff in the movie, but I read that like Nicholas Meyer specifically like kept doing more takes with Shatner. Because he was trying to get like the bullshit out of him. He was trying to pull a Fincher on him.
Oh, yeah, I read the same thing. I think it was the scene where he was supposed to tell them to like blow up when they get Khan's shield down.
Right. Yes.
Where he's supposed to tell them to like shoot the ship, but he kept on being so like gung ho about it. The guy was
it's
like,
too obvious.
"Well, if you're that gung ho about it, they're gonna know that you're shooting at them. It doesn't work for the character." And he couldn't explain it to him enough, so he just ran him through the ringer for like hours until finally he was just like, "Whatever, just blow up the fucking ship."
I love the use of the reading glasses in that part.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah. And I mean, immediately after that, they take all the wind out of the sails of this big emotional moment by adding like 3 more hints that like, oh, but maybe he's alive. I don't know. It's like, I've never seen somebody telegraph the next movie the twist so openly at the end of this. And I mean, I know they're probably technically negotiating with him, and I know this had something to do with Nimoy trying to get the directing job in the next one. But I still am amazed at how much they were like, well, it is a planet that's made for bringing dead things back to life. And, I have a feeling we'll be seeing him again in the near future.
I mean,
Bones. It's quite literally Genesis.
Yeah, I was disappointed by that, too. They do kind of shoehorn, and like really drive it home that he's coming back. I wish it was more subtle, is what we're saying.
Mm-hmm.
That was all post-production stuff. If you guys read, that was something that, again, at the behest of the studio, where in the script, the way it was written and everything like that, he died. It was definitive.
Yeah.
And I think that was part of the reason why they were able to actually get Nimoy to come back. But then they shot like the stuff that looks like it's in an atrium. I think they shot afterward.
Yeah.
After test screenings.
Well, I guess that's I like that better than if they had killed him off and been like, he's dead, and then had to like jump through hoops to try. Like, I like that they hinted at it. I wish they had hinted at it and not just basically explicitly said, don't worry, we'll figure this shit out. But like, I like this better than if they had killed him off and been like, yeah, he's fucking dead, man, no more Spock. And then the next movie been like, yeah, we're not going to not have Leonard Nimoy. I mean, come on, let's figure out how to make this work,
It's almost that. It's pretty close.
It is. It's pretty
and
close.
I love that being part of the lore of this movie. I love, like the Pretty Woman thing, where it's like, once you find out that originally the movie was written differently, it makes you like it more somehow,
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, we couldn't get Leonard Nimoy to come back for this one, but we got someone else to play Spock. Who'd you get? Judson Scott. Are we gonna credit him? No.
He's demanding a better credit.
He's willing to be credited as Leonard Nimoy in this one.
Well, speaking of people like playing Leonard Nimoy and stuff, did you read that Kirstie Alley apparently like just gave an incredible Nimoy impression at her audition, and that
And used up all her Nimoy impersonation there and couldn't have any for the actual shoot.
basically, yeah.
Oh, wait a second. Time out. I have so many questions. I'm going to let Colin talk a little bit, but you guys can discuss if you have opinions. What the fuck is up with this Klingon or Vulcan chick where she's like cries and she yells and she doesn't have the weird eyebrows that just go up? Like she has no characteristics of a Vulcan except for her pointy ears. What the fuck?
Colin, I'll leave this for you.
Kirstie Alley really looked right for the part.
That's another thing that where you guys were kind of talking about like all the different versions that are out there and how limitless they are. Apparently, I was also doing some reading. I'm not sure if this is how accurate this is, but there's a whole subplot that was cut out of the movie where she's from two different cultures. I think she's part Romulan, part Vulcan, if I'm not mistaken. And that was supposed to be the inspiration for the
Wait,
the
so
tier.
do Romulans just look like humans with normal eyebrows? Because
No, Romulans look like Vulcans, but they act more like humans.
oh, okay. Well, I guess that makes sense. I still don't understand why her eyebrows are normal though. And you know, like I get like maybe that explains why she's crying, although they probably should have put some of that in the movie because they've got this like famously non-emotional race of people who in this movie the one of the two of them is super fucking emotional all the time. Like that it seems like that should be explained. But also
I mean,
but also
might be a
her
good
eyebrows.
idea.
Yeah.
I think
feel
it's just
like
because
her. Sorry, go ahead.
Wait,
I
Matt,
think
were you
it's
going to
just
say
'cause
I feel like
Kirstie
her
Alley-
eyebrows
yeah.
and then talk about her eyebrows more because I'm really concerned about this eyebrow.
yeah.
I was
Yeah, I
just
wanna hear
gonna
what Matt
say.
has to say.
I was just gonna say. I feel like her character is like the weak link of this movie. That I was like, oh, Kirstie
For
Alley. Yeah, I know
Yeah,
her.
second.
And she didn't really like amount to anything. I thought to myself, even like, oh, she's kind of sexy. Like maybe she'll have like a romantic thing with someone. No.
Yeah, or maybe she'll just take over for Shelley Long at some point in something. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
It's hard to see what her future will be.
Maybe she'll quit cocaine one day and just get really fat. Who knows?
I don't know. Yeah, who knows? Anything. Sky's the limit, Kirstie.
Maybe she'll think she'll hear her baby talking. Who knows?
Twice, 3 times.
Nice job, guys. Nice job.
So Harris, are you aware that her character is in the next movie?
I was not aware of that.
I didn't
That's
know that.
exciting.
Are you aware that her character is no longer played by Kirstie Alley in the next
Even
movie?
more exciting. This gets better. Don't ruin it for me, but seriously,
All right.
I'm gonna wait and let
Basically-
it be a surprise. But
Basically, they got to have Kirstie Alley in the movie when she was like, just like, I mean, she
It's her first movie,
was
isn't
hot.
It said and
Yeah,
introducing.
she was a
Kirstie
hot
Alley.
woman, and like, I think she did a bad job, but like a better job than we're ever gonna give her credit for.
well, that
Because-
is true.
She was, like it's like she did kind of a bad job because she was kind of the weak link of the movie, but she also like didn't do the worst job. She's like the weak link she's like the bad outfielder on a really good baseball.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's like a 12th man on a championship basketball
Yeah.
team.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's the role. It's partially the role too. There's not like a lot of it. That would be really compelling if we had known that she was this mixed race woman, and
Yeah, that would work.
You could play into like the philosophical implications in the movie too more. That's a whole subplot you could deal with. But
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can forgive her if she was playing a character that was supposed to be weirdly emotional, and then they edited that part out, and it's kind of like, oh no, she sucks. She can't even act unemotional. Like,
Well, I have a question. So, Colin, does every Star Trek movie introduce like a new character on the bridge who sort of fills this role of like they kind of push against Kirk a little bit, but they're I don't know. I feel like
No, they don't.
well
because I
because
think
my question is, if she wasn't in the movie, who would have that role? Which member of the crew would be the tag along kind of would it be Sulu or I don't know who?
well, it's
No,
usually
I mean,
Spock,
she's
and,
kind of-
Spock and Bones usually
Yeah.
push against him, right?
yeah, basically it's Spock and Bones, that kind of triangle of opposing kind of positions that we've talked about before. But yeah, basically she's kind of playing the role of I don't know. In these first 2 movies, I think they were concerned with the fact that their characters are old, and what they wanted to do was show that they're, in the world that they've built, there would be some kind of changing of the guard or whatever. But then I think, in this one and in the subsequent movies, and I think part of what this one is kind of about, with the Kirk's obsession with youth subplot, is that it doesn't matter that they're old. This is just what they do,
Yeah.
And it also it's significant because, as we can see, like the Kirk, Spock, McCoy triangle of those characters working off one of another. Eventually, as we see these movies progress, and in this movie, we see that they're really actually very close to each other because that's all they have. Like that's what they do. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and once again, I think a testament to Shatner's strength in this is that even all the best Kirstie Alley scenes in this are the ones where she's with him and he's like either pushing against her, or when he realizes he should have been more alert to the friendly ship and whatever, and she had quoted him some regulation, and he's like, as soon as they're done, they're like, everyone's kissing his ass, and he's like, what, I don't remember what he said. He's like, I got my ass handed to, or I did nothing except get caught with my britches down. Mr. Savick, continue quoting me regulations or whatever like that. And it's like, those moments he basically carries, that character through and makes it a little more relevant, any redemption that it has. Why do they call her Mr. Savick too? I don't understand. Like
that was my question.
It's apparently a naval thing, I think. Like
it's a naval
ladies
thing,
are dudes.
Yeah, if you're a certain officer rank, then everyone's called Mister. But if you're
I see
something below captain or something, I
that
forget
makes
exactly.
I noticed the boatswain whistles, which I didn't notice in the last one, which were a weird addition for. I mean, I guess they
were in the show.
Were they? I guess they were.
Yeah.
It feels like it was like leaning into the and all the spaceship fights had a very naval battle feel to them, of like low paced and mostly about like positioning and strategy and everything. So
getting the upper hand.
Yeah, exactly.
It's chess. And that's I think, based on what I read too, that was kind of like Roddenberry originally wanted it. Like I saw the show as like Horatio Hornblower in space. Or at least that's
right. It's not dogfighting with
exactly
starfighters. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and that's a Nicholas Meyer thing. He really, I think, pushed for all of that stuff. It feels more like Master and Commander or a prequel to that,
right?
than Star Wars.
Yeah, it is a navy. I like there's some thing where they call the fleet a humanitarian armada, which is a really elegant term for it.
All right.
Because they're like a navy that doesn't do war. They just explore.
Right.
Is the idea.
Could I? I'd like to change the subject for a second. I think it's time to talk about Ricardo Montalban's titties.
Yes,
which are real. It's not a chest
listen,
plate.
Listen, when I saw that, when he took his top off and he was in his little cable knit thing, I was convinced immediately that he was wearing not just a prosthetic, but a terrible prosthetic. Like between how smooth and fake and cartoonishly huge his chest is, and also the suspicious like Venice Beach head shop necklace that he's wearing that never moves. I was like, oh guys,
and the V-neck of it all.
Yeah, I was like, oh guys, come on, like there's no question, and you can't do better than this. And also, even I was looking at his biceps, and I was like, oh man, even the gun show might be fake. I don't even really know what's going on here. And then I mean, by the end of the movie, I was like, every once in a while he'd move and I'd be like, damn, that looks pretty good. I don't know. That might be, and I never thought it was real. And then I watched Space Seed, and that's just his fucking physique. I was like, 'cause he has his shirt completely off. And granted, it was 15 years earlier, but he has his shirt completely off of that. And he still has this unrealistically large, I mean, that was in 1967. Mr. Universe had small pecs in guys weren't built like that in 1967. It's unreal. And this is like a 60-year-old dude with he's already got like the turkey neck coming in, and he is fucking
that was
jacked,
honestly
dude. Jacked. Oh, it's unbelievable.
That's a great picture, Matt.
They're painting his chest on.
The face he's making.
he's like what he's saying there is with his eyes is, go ahead and touch it. You know you want to.
Here on Fantasy Island, all your dreams.
I've been staring at it all day. Just touch it.
The makeup artist is like,
Get it
"We're
over
done.
with."
Your chest looks great. We could stop here.
We need more
He's like-
definition.
He's like, no, keep painting. More nipple hair.
You know what convinced me though completely. It's the 100% selling point on this being actually real, and any conspiracy theories. This is my number one thing that I would refute them with. Just they can't even match the flesh tone of Spock's ears. They can't even make the close up of the earwig coming into Chekhov's ear. They don't have the ability to make a prosthesis as convincing as this chest piece would have to be. It just they didn't have the technology then. It has to be real because they just weren't that fucking good.
That was honestly my first introduction to this entire movie. It was some lazy Saturday afternoon in middle school watching I Love the 80s on repeat, and all these fucking celebrities talking about Ricardo Montalban's chest in the Wrath of Khan. I was like, what? This is in a Star Trek movie?
It deserves all that conversation and more.
Absolutely.
You know what's funny to me is like that that moment I told you about when I watched it as a little kid and I had to ask my dad like, why does Spock die, and I'm like crying and all that. There was a moment way before that where I was like, what's with his chest? Where are his nipples? Why is it like that? My dad's just like, he's just big.
It's a rite of passage. Maybe parents should bring that into every Birds and Bees.
Yeah,
sketch,
pretty much.
And keep
Son, we're going to watch this VHS copy of Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. You're going to learn a few things.
You'll never truly feel like a man again, but
Excuse me, how is this relevant to sex ed? Like, just look at the chest.
Son, shut up. How many times do I have to tell you?
and like what's amazing is that for years he was doing Fantasy Island, and at the same time as this, where he was wearing like a suit and just like talk about hiding your light under a bushel. Like if I'm running Fantasy Island, I'm like, oh yeah, Mr. Rourke wears a tank top from now on. Like that's just his outfit is a muscle shirt now.
We're looking at the numbers; they've gone through the roof.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, how are we missing this? This is a no-brainer, man.
It's a tropical island, right?
Yeah,
and they got him wearing a three-piece suit
he's got
in
a
every
three-piece
scene.
white suit.
The fuck out of here. So the director hated him.
Seriously.
Yeah.
One thing bugged me at the very end, right before Khan is killed. He doesn't get that moment of realization that he's lost. The last thing he thinks he's done before he dies is that he's won. He's destroyed Kirk. But then Kirk, obviously they figure out the warp situation and they get out of there and he blows up. But I wanted that shot of Khan looking out the window or whatever and seeing them warp away and being like, no, and then it blows up, So
you wanted Grandma Tarkin before the Death Star.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to know that he lost, kind of thing, and I was disappointed that we didn't get that.
I kind of like it how it is because he's such a likable bad guy. You like not liking how bad he is.
That's I'm kind of the first. I watched it twice, like I usually do, and the first time I saw it, I had the exact same reaction you did, Matt. And I was like, "Oh, that's weird that they chose not to have him sort of really learn that he lost." And then the second time through, I was like, "I don't know. He's like a good villain, and he was in his own weird way was right to be mad at Kirk for abandoning him on that planet and leaving him to die, and Like, I don't know. I just kind of felt like he had a real grievance, and if there's one small victory he can claim from that is like dying thinking he actually won in the end, and all of it wasn't for nothing. So I kind of was, I came around to the idea that it makes some sense.
I also still love the dynamic of him and the guy that died. What was his name again?
Judson Scott?
Joaquin.
Judson Scott.
Yeah, Joaquin, but
Get
whatever.
me Judson
I still love the
Scott.
dynamic of
Judson
him and
Scott.
Joaquin. Because
Say his name.
yeah, Judson Scott.
Don't forget Judson Scott.
He'll be credited.
It's more than his manager.
Oh, that's mean. Anyways, I just love that dynamic because every time Khan has anything to say, he just starts going off on a monologue of like biblical proportions, and that guy's just standing there watching him.
They're all just watching him.
We know that the camera's there, but he doesn't really.
Yeah, you would think after After 15 years being stuck on the same planet, he just turned around and be like, "Can you shut the fuck up for once? Please stop. We've heard this
or
monologue
just quietly
20
turn
times.
around and look to the other people on the crew and be like, "This again, right?" Like,
You know what it is?
oh, Captain's on another bender.
You know what it is? I bet he tries to meet his eye line, and his eyes just slowly start to drift down.
It's looking
To that chest.
To his chest.
Khan's like, my eyes are up here, Judson. also, all these massive quote spills of just random famous literature. They only had like 8 books, so that means that like they probably all read them. So he's like, yeah, we know, we get it. Moby Dick again. Okay, fine. Stab at the whatever. Can we just get to like? You don't have to do this every time we kill an ear slug, okay?
At least he's from the 90s, so it makes a little bit more sense that he's like reciting these bits from literature that's like, 50 years ago.
Did they do that in the 90s?
I think that's a Nicholas Meyer thing too.
Well, I mean, like to do it 300 years later and you're quoting Melville that was like, written
right.
Yeah, he's also from a
400
'90s where World War III happened then. So, I mean,
I think it's a Nicholas Meyer thing too, honestly, because he directed Undiscovered Country, the last of these original slew of movies, and that one also has a villain who's really hammy in quoting Shakespeare and stuff, right?
a lot of Shakespeare quoting in that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that he's very literary minded too. We mentioned like For a Second, Time After Time earlier. Have any of you guys seen that? Mm-hmm. It's really good if you haven't. It's like one of the best concepts for a movie I've ever heard. Time After Time, I think it's his second movie after
The Cyndi Lauper song?
Yeah, it's named after that.
This one and the same. No, the concept is basically, what if H.G. Wells and Jack the Ripper were best friends, but H.G. Wells didn't know it, invented the time machine, and Jack the Ripper goes back to 70s era San Francisco and just murders people there, and H.G. Wells has to run after him.
So, and what's interesting about that is that he read a galley copy of, or no, it wasn't even a galley copy. It was a pitch of the novel Time After Time. And because he was a novelist himself, he started off as a novelist. He made a novel called The 7% Solution, which is all about Sherlock Holmes as a cokehead, meeting Sigmund Freud and solving crimes with Sigmund Freud. And it's actually, that's a pretty good, and then he sold the rights, but he put a contingency that he sold the rights on the condition that he would get to direct it. And he never directed anything before, but he ended up making a really good movie out of that. And sort of launched his directing career. And then I guess it was probably a friend of his, was writing a novel about Jack the Ripper going through time. And he basically, I think he heard the pitch and like the first act and was like, I'm in. And then wrote the screenplay concurrent to the novel being written. So they both kind of went in different directions.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's not a direct adaptation. It's kind of like a split adaptation of the same idea.
Kind of like 2001. Where yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's interesting, but yeah, you're totally right. He is probably a literary nerd and is including all this stuff for that reason, and that's kind of part of his gimmick.
Well, even
a guy he didn't have a lot of creative output as a director. I mean, we basically mentioned 2 Star Trek movies, those 2 movies, and he probably did other things. I don't know if
nothing else that was as iconic,
significant. Yeah, but that's pretty good. It's pretty good. I haven't seen the other Star Trek movie, but at least those 3 that I know of are a pretty good run for a director.
But this is his most famous movie, I think, right?
Definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
What else bugged you guys about this movie? What didn't work, or what doesn't stand the test of time? Nothing. It's perfect.
I don't. Well, it's a plot hole, but I don't get why. Except for the obvious solution of they didn't want to kill the character off. Why does Chekhov's earwig crawl out of his head at that random convenient time?
Yeah, that bugged me.
Like, what the fuck?
His brain is too strong.
It was supposed to squeeze his brain to death, and it didn't.
If the earbug experiences a certain amount of trauma, it just freaks out and like tries to dip.
Did they say that?
It's implied.
Where there was no trauma though.
Can we just talk about how like orifices and things entering them is like one of the worst things to watch in a movie? Between that and The Matrix, I'm just
literally the the guys know this because I talked about it when we talked about this movie before, but that is the only part of this movie that I'd ever seen before is like on Showtime or HBO or something late at night. I saw the earwigs crawling into their ear scene and was like, that's all I knew of this, and was just like,
God.
oh, fuck this shit. I'm not watching this.
Harris just watches like sick earwig videos on YouTube late at night.
Yeah. Like I hate it, but I also like have to. It's
It's like watching like zit popping videos. You
Yeah.
have to
Right,
watch that.
right, yeah.
It's the best.
Yeah, I mean, that was the big question about me seeing it as a kid is like, can I handle seeing that? And the funny thing is, as an adult, when I watch it now, it looks like incredibly fake to me. And when I was a kid, it looked like I was convinced they really did that to someone, you know?
I definitely thought those bugs were real. I thought they were absolutely like there was no way they could have faked those bugs. Those had to be real bugs.
I like the part when he had to pull like the baby bugs off of the big one.
Yeah.
I thought he did a good job of selling that, like yanking them.
I love the
off.
little faces he's making when he's doing that.
Yeah. And the sound design is really like what brings all that stuff over the top. Like they're so freaky, they're a little shrieking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Freak the fuck out of me.
What do we have left? Have we talked about everything?
What didn't work for you, Matt?
Well, and this is my hot take, and Harris is definitely going to have something to say, but I feel like I was bored at some points, and I kept saying to myself, is this almost over? And I kept checking the time. Whereas with Star Trek the Motion Picture, I never did that.
What?
Are you out of your goddamn mind?
Guys,
I want to know what hallucinogenic drugs you were doing that made Star Trek the Motion Picture interesting enough that you were never bored. Because first of all, Star Trek the Motion Picture, I don't believe for a second that you were never bored during that. That is the boringest movie. That movie is designed to be boring. And second, this one moves. And I watched it twice, and both times I was amazed. I was like, wow, this really just doesn't get old. This moves fast, scene to scene, everything about it.
So here's my question, Matt. What do you think about the scene when she takes them inside the Genesis cave? Basically, Carol Marcus's big scene, and the reveal, which I love the reveal of the Kobayashi Maru.
Oh yeah, that's a great moment.
Kirk.
Yeah.
What do you think of that scene?
that he cheated, right?
That he cheated, and then you immediately pivot from him cheating on that to him having the upper hand on Khan when we thought that he was just giving up.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when I'm pumping my fist in the air.
Yeah.
Well, he's eating some space like fruit. He's just like chomping on it.
Yeah. He's like, that's right. I don't fuck around. Beat me up.
What did you think of that scene?
I enjoyed it. I thought that was fine. Yeah, I thought I like scenes like that when you're learning something about someone or like a plot, something moves in the plot forward. Yeah, I dug that, and I dug the reveal.
Action-wise, that's the slowest part of the movie.
But it's
intentional because you're supposed to think that they're screwed.
Right. Yeah, and it's a new location. It's a thing we haven't seen that's not the bridge of a ship, It's like a new place, and then they reveal the planet, or where are they actually? Are they inside that like
They're in the
regular
balance.
one?
Yeah, it's like an asteroid or something, right? It's like a giant rock, they say.
Inside of
they're
it.
They're underground, this dead in this dead thing. Like that's the thing. All the scenes in this movie were really essential, and none of them overstayed their welcome. So I feel like for Star Trek the Motion Picture, which I guess all those scenes were essential, but they were all like 8 to 10 minutes longer than they had to be because they had to sit there and watch a spaceship for 5 minutes with nothing happening. This one actually, like, the scenes sort of got in, got out. Everything had a function. You could clearly see the function. It was all moving things forward.
I would say the only thing that struck me as a little slow is just the coda. Like after everything wraps up, the climax is dealt with, and I feel like the movie should really end with the funeral, but I get why there's more there.
I feel like they earned a little indulgence. Whenever I like a movie and it takes too long to wrap up, I'm always like, I'll give them that, But
I do think that last line he says is "I feel young." I think that's a really
definitely,
important line.
and I love the fact that the whole coda with Spock saying our mission, like all that stuff is great. That's really necessary.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
One thing we didn't talk about that we could talk about, unless Matt, you were going to explain your.
Well, what I was going to say is like what you guys are describing is like that scenes feel long. I don't think scenes feel long. I just said that I was bored during some of it, not through all of it, but there were moments where I had the thought of like, when is this going to end? I didn't, I enjoyed this movie. I just, I don't know.
I think if you want to compare it to the first one, the nebula could look cooler because I think they committed more to that stuff on the first one.
Yes.
I thought the nebula looked pretty cool, but definitely it wasn't
It
wasn't nearly as good as the
it wasn't
visual
extensive.
effects.
It wasn't like visual effects.
Yeah,
so
the
real
visual
kind of
effects in the
thing.
first one were better. I thought they did they did a good job of staying within their means in this nebula scene because I don't think they could do much more than this. They're just like, okay, cool colors, ships moving through space. I did think this was one of the weaker parts of the movie, and it wasn't because it was unnecessarily slow, but I did feel like I wasn't clear on the geography. Like I didn't know how he was sneaking up on Khan. I didn't know how he was outsmarting. I didn't really get the strategy of the naval battle, which I think made it a little weaker for me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, basically they just went down really far and up really far again like an elevator because Khan was trying to maneuver them. You know, but he wasn't thinking about the fact that they're in space.
Right, but I did watch it twice, and it wasn't totally clear that was
Yeah, because what do they say
was-
about
And
him?
I think
that he's
it's
only
part of-
thinking in 2 dimensions or something.
2D. Yeah.
Yeah, two-dimensionally, yeah. Because he's intelligent, but he has not flown spaceships all his life like they have, you know? And I think part of that is because of what we're talking about. Like, they could have committed more resources and time to the exteriors of the spaceships in the nebula and the special effect of what the nebula looks like. And then you would have seen the ships moving around each other more, which would have given it a spatial kind of geography.
Yeah.
One other thing we haven't talked about at all. I do not believe that tall blonde kid is Kirk's. It's just hot take. I don't buy it. It looks nothing like him.
The hair is the only thing that could maybe draw a comparison.
Yeah, exactly.
Those weird curls.
Yeah,
I think they have similar noses. I look at their noses and I see something there.
that could be anybody's nose. I wouldn't. If I was him, I mean, I don't know if he's paying her, but I would get that checked. I imagine in the future it's very easy to do.
I feel like that old cliche of
yeah.
like
But-
Kirk and Carol are hanging out, and then like there's a knock at the door, and it's like, oh, it's the space mailman, and he comes in, and he looks exactly like like the kid.
Haven't been here in a while.
I wanted in the credit sequence. I wanted.
I remember this bedroom.
I wanted them to be like, and the results are in, and Captain Kirk, you are not the father.
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah, that's mostly
Space Maury
that's mostly
Povich.
what McCoy does when they're not exploring space. That's what McCoy does.
Yeah, that's his job. It's like, oh nope, you got dodge another bullet.
I'm a daytime TV show host, not a.
I was gonna mention it if we're running out of things to talk about. Like the other thing that I feel like I knew about this movie before seeing any Star Trek is like it's canonically part of the summer of '82, which is just like maybe the best blockbuster summer slate of all time because it's the same summer as E.T., it's the same summer as Tron, Blade Runner, Poltergeist. There's others I'm missing too, but it's just like this insane spate of incredible movies there that are The Thing, that John Carpenter's The Thing.
I mean, is it on par with 96? Because 96 is pretty good.
What's 96?
90,
Yeah, it sounds like we have
Yeah.
a challenger.
yeah, that's good. We should do
Oh,
a whole
man.
separate podcast on those 2 years.
Yeah, 82 versus 96.
82.
The
Who
pod.
you got?
Pod.
Who are you guys?
I would have liked to. I don't know. We didn't talk about Bones that much. I think he's really good, but I would always love to see more of him. I love that he's like, we're talking about Universal Armageddon.
Yeah, and he's getting all up with Spock's shit, and Spock's like, "Listen, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just pointing it out.
Yeah, I love that scene.
Don't jump up
That's
my
classic.
ass, Doctor."
Yeah, that's classic McCoy and Spock.
Yeah.
Like,
What about them
classic.
getting drunk off of Romulan ale in like the first 5 minutes? And
Oh yeah. See, that one looks a little too method to me. I think he should have been acting like he was drunk instead of getting drunk.
What did you guys think of Kirk's apartment?
it's cool.
Oh,
It's like a
nice.
museum.
Yeah, very, very single space captain bachelor pad type of thing. There's like a lot of you know he had like copies of The Art of War on his shelf and shit like that. It's like he's got like fucking armor and swords and shit. It's like all right, guy. This may impress the ladies coming home from the club, but
There's
I don't
probably
know.
some switchy flips where like his bed starts rotating like Austin Powers.
Oh, absolutely, yes, no doubt.
They reused that set in the next
Do
movie.
they really?
Just so you know.
Oh yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's like the next. It looks the exact same. Like
Also, surprisingly, like this is like his permanent, because I think it's the San Francisco's in the background there. So this is like his permanent Earth residence. And it's like...
Yeah, I think that's what the significance of the line he delivers right before they cut to him being there, of the way he says he's going, okay, I have to go home.
Yeah.
But he's saying it like, I don't want to go there.
So let me clarify.
Like, that's not your real home.
I probably wouldn't want to go there too, because it looks like looks like it's a high rise and, you know, a fairly nice place, but it is like I think it's a 1-bedroom. Like you're an admiral and like a long tenured Starfleet muckety muck.
San Francisco's pretty expensive, Harris.
Well, I mean that's true. I guess it's times are tough all over.
Where's the real housewives of Starfleet?
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm just like, I would think at this point in your career, you're not living in a 1-bedroom. Like he should have had a couple of sad looking cats there. that would have just made it perfect. Like this is Kirk's life when he's not out. You know, banging Space Poon. He's home with his cats in his 1-bedroom. Like I was like, I'm looking at it. I'm like, if I put swords on my wall, my place is similar. It just doesn't have a view.
Harris, I live within my means. This is all I
think they don't show you that. I think they don't show you that one wall so that you can like maybe imagine it's a little bigger.
Right. Like, oh, it keeps going. It keeps going. Just don't look back there. No, it's that's my private. My private wing is on the right.
The production design on this is, I don't know. It's really hard to describe what I was thinking, but basically the first one has a really ambitious production design that's very like everything is based on this idea of what they think a future is going to be like. And this looks more like a pop culture idea of what the future is going to be like to like 1982 pop culture to me. But also there's the difference between the budgets. So I don't know.
As depicted by the hairstyles of Khan's roommates.
Yeah.
Oh, and also Bones' outfit when he goes there to drink Romulan ale. Like I have no idea if those are like pockets or he's got like there's so much going on with that. It's like it looks like he might be wearing chaps.
Oh my god, I love it so much. It's so cool.
Which if you also think about the outfit that he showed up in the last one, when he had the beard and like the shirt unbuttoned down to his navel and the gold chains
and the necklace.
I feel like there was a moment when he comes in and he's busting Kirk's balls for not going out and being a space captain again, when in the last movie the first conversation they have is him busting Kirk's balls for trying to take control of the Enterprise and be a space captain. I felt like there was I got this vibe at the beginning of this one that they were just like, oh, are they just like retconning out the entire first movie and just pretending like it didn't happen? And honestly,
feel that way a little bit.
There are not a lot of there's very little carryover from that first one. They don't mention anything that happened in it, and it seems like even the characters, because it certainly doesn't look like Bones is retired to a hippie commune ever. You know, he looks like he's just been part of Starfleet forever. So
yeah, Bones in street clothes though, always great.
Always a pleasure.
I think I love the Bones character because to me he's the one who makes it a space western. Because he is like that character of like another one of he's another one of these cowboys. And I think it's really well defined when his fear of the transporter, when they're about to transport into the middle of the rock, is like, he's the guy who's like, oh yeah, well, we could just be dying right now. You know, he's the one who's like, okay, we're doing this trail. And he's the character who gets to say, oh, there's rattlers, or like, oh, the banditos could kill us, or like whatever, you know, like, I don't know.
I didn't realize
you know what I'm saying.
I didn't realize how accurate the Carl Urban character is in the new ones. Like they're basically just
it's a 1-to-1.
Yeah, exactly. They're not updating that at all. Like a lot of the other guys have little twists to them, and the Carl Urban character is exactly, he's just doing his impression.
It's an impression.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which I think it's pretty interesting. I haven't looked up their ages, but is what's the guy's name? DeForest Kelley, is that the guy who plays Bones?
Yeah.
Yes.
He's like 10 years older.
That's what I was gonna say, because he looks so fucking old and all. Like they all look oldish, but he looks really.
He's called Bones because he can see his bones.
There is an obscene amount of pancake makeup on Leonard Nimoy's face, which is just like every time they show a close up, I'm like, oh my god, they just like mash his face directly into a pot of clay. But
yeah, movies from this era have the like misfortune of like now that they've been converted to high definition,
You see all the makeup.
You really see
Yeah.
all the makeup.
Yeah, I wonder how like Amadeus looks. You know, like
right, where you could always see all the makeup, but now
I remember as a kid, I was like, oh my god, they look so convincing. He looks like an 80-year-old version of himself.
Yeah. No, it's
Yeah.
I've got a question for you, Colin, or anybody.
Yeah.
What is impulse power? Is that just a Star Trek thing, or is that an actual phrase?
Okay, so the ship goes to warp speed, right? The way I understand it is that like they have to generate some kind of reaction to make enough power for warp speed, but that amount of power can also be used to power the whole ship as well, like all the little lights and all that stuff. And basically, that amount of power can also give them some drive in a direction without going to warp, and they call that the impulse, like the impulse of the ship. So that's what impulse drive is.
Okay.
I'm realizing that Star Trek is mostly just conversations about like shifting power, literal ship power. Like, if something fails, like we need to get the power from something else. Like, don't you just wish the world worked like that? Like, your internet goes down. Oh man, our internet's out. Well, just pull the power from like the faucet. Like get the water to like turn it back on, or like, I don't know. They're just like pulling power from different parts of the ship.
Nice.
It's kind of fun.
That's what makes Scotty such a great character, because he's MacGyver and Merlin all at the same time.
Yeah.
like this stuff is science, but we can't explain it to you because it's hundreds of years in the future. So it's kind of magic, wink, wink. But don't ever say that.
Do you guys want to? Are we ready to rate this
Sure.
thing? Or are we?
Let's
out of
do it.
things to
I've
talk
got
about?
no objections.
Yeah. All right, Harris. Do you want to go first, or Colin, or someone? Me? Who wants to go first?
You should go first.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, I will go first. So I wish I got to watch this movie in a better viewing experience. I kind of had to watch it while I was doing some other stuff, and I had to keep pausing it or whatever, so I didn't get the full like viewing of it, and that might have contributed to my feelings about it being boring.
You felt it was boring because you weren't paying attention to it. That might not be the movie's fault.
Yeah.
Maybe I could have grabbed power from another source to get me to pay attention.
Should have gone to auxiliary.
No. Auxiliary, yeah. No, but I'd seen most of this movie before. I may have seen the whole thing a long time ago, but I did enjoy it. It's hard for me to compare it to the previous movie because, like, even though that movie is obviously like drawn out, I did really enjoy the first one a lot. My hot take on it is that like some of the things that I think a lot of people like about it kind of turned me off a little bit this time. For instance, like Khan, like how he's just his whole like way of thinking. Like when this guy says to him like, "Hey, we have everything. Let's get out of here." Maybe when this movie came out, we hadn't seen a villain who was so like hell bent on revenge that like he didn't. It's like so overtly obvious that like, yes, just forget about Kirk, just go. Like what are you doing? But he has to have his revenge. I feel like that is a villain trope that we have seen before, and it's been done more subtly and done more gracefully. Whereas here, it's just like so banging you over the head that it made me as a viewer like annoyed, where I was like, come on, dude, like you have the upper hand here, just go, and then some people might think it's cool the way he's like, he's quoting things constantly, and I don't know, I just felt like he was
but I mean it's sort of what he's quoting sort of plays into exactly what you're talking, like he's quoting Moby Dick.
Yeah.
Which is a book
about
all about a
vanity.
guy who has an irrational obsession
I
that
understand
leads to his
that.
demise. It's like his defining characteristic is that this doesn't make sense, and yet he can't let it go.
I understand that, but it's like to an extreme that I find like by today's standards is unbelievable.
I think it's kind of not fair. If you're saying you watched it only in pieces, you have to pay attention because they give you the backstory that you saw, that like I saw in Space Seed. in a few lines, and that tells you that he thinks he should rule all people because he's been like genetically engineered to do so. And he's been put on a planet by himself for being bad. And then that planet turns into something that kills everyone he knows almost, except for a few of them. And he blames it all on this guy. And the only woman that he convinced to love him unequivocally was also killed by this. And like, they give you all that stuff, and it's like, okay, he was already insane, and he's gone way over the edge, but he's also has all these tools of physical intelligence or physical strength and mental intelligence and stuff like that. And I think they give you that stuff. So I don't know. I think it's not fair if you didn't.
I understand it theoretically, and I got all that stuff, and I didn't watch the movie in pieces as much as I had to like pause it every now and then come back to it. So I didn't miss anything.
That's
What is the difference?
A distinction without a difference, I think. There.
No. Watching it in pieces means you only get pieces of the whole. So like, I would watch 10 minutes, walk away, miss 10 minutes, and then come back and watch. I didn't miss anything. I would just pause it and then come back.
Still sounds like watching it in pieces. But go ahead.
So if you have a pie and you cut it into pieces, and then
you don't have to skip eating the pieces to eat the pie in pieces.
Well, the point is, I saw the whole movie.
Okay.
It took me a lot longer to watch the whole movie than
Longer than the span of the motion picture?
Yeah, exactly. That's why it seemed slower. It's like, I watched the motion picture in 2 hours. It took me 8 hours to watch this thing.
Yeah, motion picture was a
Definitely
breeze.
boring. Go ahead, Matt. Wrap it up.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm trying to say is like, it's a good movie, but I feel like, it's not a perfect movie, and for that, what did I give motion picture?
7.
Harris, you seem to remember a 7. I think I'm gonna give this a 7 too.
Oh, you are on crack. listeners, I apologize.
7 Timothy Dolphins.
I wanted to hear more. I feel like I'm sorry I kind of argued with you, but I wanted to hear more about.
He wasn't saying anything of value. I think.
I was thrown off a bit by the whole pieces thing.
Yeah. I love that we had an excuse to talk about pie, though.
Any excuse to talk about pie.
Was it a pizza pie? That's my favorite kind of pie.
All right, I'll go now. I came into this with a very negative opinion of Star Trek in general. I've watched now the motion picture and whatever that Next Generation one was, and neither one of them were very good. Motion picture was interesting but god-awful and way too slow. And I just know this show has such a reverence and respect from its fans. I was like, oh my God, there must be something of value here. And this one, like, really from the opening frames, I was like, oh yeah, oh, this is the stuff. Okay, I get it now. And it just never let up. It's not a perfect movie. But it did all the Star Trek things that I expected from Star Trek right. It had big ideas. It explored them well. It had that great relationship between Bones and Spock and Kirk that you kind of saw in the previous film hinted at, but it was like kind of really, you got a sense that it was a real friendship and a real, unity there between them. You had a great villain who I thought really, especially, I watched Space Seed after and then rewatched this movie a second time and felt like it was just so consistently an interesting take on what was kind of a one-dimensional, silly idea for a villain that they kind of it seemed like they milked it dry and did all they could with it. And then in this movie, they kind of found a whole other gear to put him in and a great actor playing it. And just the way they made such hammy moments and such over-the-top acting kind of just work, like Ricardo Montalban and William Shatner both are not holding anything back, and it's usually the kind of performance that you don't like, but in this specific kind of movie, this adventure movie that's very heightened, I thought it worked really well. And I also thought like the art direction, the sets, the costumes, the music, all of that I think was equal to or superior to the original. The only thing that it downgraded was some of the VFX and like the warp effects. Everything else was, I think, vastly superior to the first one. And hopefully the movies that we're going to watch kind of maintain this high bar. I don't expect them to be this good because how could they be? Because I feel like this one's a 9 for me. 9 Timothy Dolphins. So, yeah, that's what I got.
Nice. Well, I'm giving it 9.5 Timothy Dolphins. It's just about as close as it gets to the best. I mean, from from being a little kid and watching it, I was just blown away. Like how he just it blew my mind. Like as a little kid, seeing that movie for the first time, and it's not just because I was young and stupid. It's because I was like seeing something really interesting.
Adult and stupid.
I feel like I talked a lot during this podcast, and yeah, I mean, I like the woman who replaces Kirstie Alley in the next one, and I like how the next one. I really think this one, the next one, and 4 make like a really perfect trilogy. Maybe not as good as Star Wars Episode 4, 5, and 6, but in terms of trilogies being compared to each other, I think we should compare 2, 3, 4 of Star Trek to the other great trilogies, even though there's 6 Star Trek movies. But whatever.
Like the J.J. Abrams great trilogy.
Well, it's off to a good start. I'm
Benedict
optimistic.
Cumberbatch he's really good at Doctor Strange. I know some people don't like him as Doctor Strange, but he's great as Doctor Strange. He's great in almost everything I've seen him in. But
It's very flat.
like he's not Khan. Yeah,
There can be only one.
And Ricardo Montalban. Yeah, what Ricardo Montalban does here is really interesting to watch on screen, and it's not just the chest, and it could be just the chest with a chest like that. I don't know what else to say. I feel like I used up all my good things to say in the earlier parts of the podcast, so I'm not sure what to do in the final.
Well, you
judgment.
could give your Timothy Dolphins.
I already did. It's 9.5,
Yeah.
which is 9.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's you said
what
enough.
else?
It was 9.5 what?
Timothy Dolphins.
Nice.
Yeah.
I guess it's my turn. I'm gonna round out the choir and give this 9 Timothy Dolphins. Yeah, I mean, I would second a lot of what's already been said. I think thematically, on a character level, on the way it moves and the fact that it feels more like a movie, this is so much greater than the motion picture. And I think it is like one of the rare for someone who is more of an not as much of an acolyte with respect to Star Trek. Like it kind of feels like a bit of a crossover thing. It feels like something that sort of lent an air of legitimacy to the rest of the world who weren't as patient like with watching the shows and everything like that. And kind of became like a bigger piece of pop culture more so than a piece of a running franchise. But I think like you were saying, Harris and Colin and Matt, like, I just feel like it really beautifully meshes the thematic stuff that's going on in the background, kind of on a low simmer with respects to aging and the idea of kind of the past coming back to haunt you and all this other kind of stuff. It just does it. It threads it so well into a plot, like to the point that you're conscious of it, but you're not really thinking about it actively. And that's the best kind of thing in a blockbuster, where you watch it, you feel like your brain's being stimulated, and you are on a ride too. And I just wish more movies were like that. I want to go back to a time when more movies kind of had the gall to have ideas in them, and to marry all those ideas with like a spectacle. So I really, really like this movie a lot.
Well said. Well said.
Oh, I thought of something I wanted to say earlier when we were talking about the Into Darkness spaceship falling thing. Like, I think there's a lot of narratives about the good and the bad of things that happen in Hollywood. I think there's a bad narrative where you have like a script and it's a great idea, and then someone takes it and they make it a movie, and between them taking it and people rewriting it and the movie getting made, it turns into like absolute shit. I still think that is better, even though it's something really bad that happens and can make a really shit movie. I still think that's better than starting with a fucking commercial and turning that into a bad idea.
It's cynical.
You know what I mean?
It's like it's a really cynical, backwards thing to do, and I think it just suggests kind of like where movies have headed in the past decade, and it's kind of sad.
I think
it's
it's
a huge problem
to look at. Yeah,
it's a huge problem.
And it's like, when is it ever? It's never done well. You know, when you work backward, you can get away with some of that, but when you try to entirely retroactively create something from the end point, like the end point being the sale, or the, you know, if you're that goal oriented and not as process oriented and trying to just tell a good story, you're doomed. You know, like, it never turns out well. You can incorporate sellable elements, like it's almost impossible at any level to think about making a movie and not discuss trailer moments.
Right.
You know, you say when you read a script that has no chance of getting made, or that you're just you know, but you say, oh, there's a trailer moment. There's something that's going to look good on screen. You can't help it. You have to do it. It's because you have to, you know, you got to convince people to watch the thing. But to retrofit something to build it from the trailer moments into a story that people care about, it can't be done. It just can't. And it's stupid that people try.
I think it's like some great stories, they do start with the end of the timeline of the story, but they don't necessarily start with a transaction or a sale, you know, which is what kind of the idea of making it from the commercial back is more about.
Which reminds me, are you guys as excited as I am for the next Dark Universe movie?
What
the
is
Paul
that?
Feig movie?
No. The Dark Universe. Come on, you guys know the Mummy starring Tom Cruise.
The famous Tom Cruise Mummy franchise that's going to start up. They got Russell
hell yeah.
Crowe.
Let's go.
Right, no, but isn't Paul Feig? Isn't he directing like a Monster Mash one? Isn't that like
connected?
Wasn't that the most recent
I thought
one
the
that was
Dark
announced?
Universe got
Or am I wrong?
fizzled out.
I thought they killed it because of that exact reason, that they were like, hey, what do we own that we can commercialize? And it didn't work, but
It was so bad.
yeah.
That movie. My God.
I mean, that being said, I've watched Van Helsing the movie more than once, which a lot of people would not dare to do.
I was gonna say,
I would totally come back to
I feel
talk
like
about
that's
that
something
movie.
we should hide from the public.
Yeah,
Shouldn't be,
cut it out. Cut this out.
all the smart things you said before, everyone's like, wait, maybe he isn't smart. Like, what, did somebody trick him into watching it multiple times? Was he trapped in a gingerbread house where they were just showing it on a repeat?
I'm my own
all right,
worst
well-
enemy.
Oh, look at this. We're shaping up to be the exact length of the film.
Yeah, that's how we do it.
Perfect.
All right. Well, on that note,
I like to imagine someone watching the movie without sound and listening to our podcast, but
yeah, seeing if they sync up.
yeah,
The
I don't know if
commentary,
we're
the
there yet.
beautiful commentary.
They're not talking about
Dark
this
Side of
scene.
the Moon. It's funny.
Yeah.
Our podcast and Dark Side of the Moon and Wrath of Khan can all be watched simultaneously, and
It makes you dumber for doing so. It's totally
it's worth it. It's
Yeah.
worth it.
It's a multi-screen experience.
All right. Thank you for listening. If you like our show, subscribe, tell your friends.
tell your enemies.
Yeah, tell your enemies. We need a way for fans to be able to give us feedback. How can we do that?
Do we have an Instagram account or a
We do.
Twitter account?
Oh,
They
I
could
think
tweet
we
us.
do.
Yeah.
They should tweet us. What is our tweet?
Colin,
Or email.
what is our Instagram?
At License
Handle?
to Watch, I think. Hold on. Let me double check.
It might be License to Watch podcast.
I
or-
think it's just
Get
at
at us.
License to Watch, but I think we might have underscores or something. Hold on, let me look.
Get at us on social media.
Oh, okay.
And let
okay.
us know what you
it's,
think.
It's at License to Watch podcast, and the spaces between the words are underscores. So license _to_watch _podcast. And you
All
can
right.
The most difficult thing to remember.
it's not that bad. You can DM.
You mean somebody had all the other versions of License to Watch that would have been less confusing than that?
I don't think they allow
I
spaces.
don't know.
or
Is
something.
this my fault? Am I the one who did it?
No, I don't know.
Did I create it?
Let's say you did it.
I would have used a number. I would have been license number 2 watch.
Yeah.
Is it too late?
A lot of people look at Instagram while they're taking a number 2, I've heard.
That is absolutely
And they listen to podcasts while they're taking a number 2.
too true. Too true. All right, so hit us up on social media. Let us know what you like and what you dislike. I mean, try not to just say the same things. I know everyone's going to say we like Harris, we dislike when those other 2 guys are talking. But I mean, just try to be even-handed. Don't be too hard on the guys because
They're all going to say, we too like the motion picture better than
I
this
can
film."
I can handle all the praise. So
I am sensitive, but if you say anything that hurts me, I'll go to Matt and Harris first.
It's true. We all cry to each other on text message.
yeah, and
I
please
can't believe you said this.
and please let Matt know what you think about him thinking that the motion picture is better than Wrath of Khan. It's such a bad take. It's
Bring
not
it
even a
on,
hot
fuckers.
take. It's like a steaming hot.
Never living
turd
this
take.
down.
It's a take best served cold.
Matt actually said it was the same as he ranked it similar, and it was like he just got up on the conference table and took a big dump in front of all of us.
And I would too.
Thank God for social distancing. This is the social distancing equivalent of just pooping in front of me.
Harris, you've got a big Zoom poop coming your way real soon.
Yeah.
So, Josh, thanks for being a part of the show. Do you have anything that you want to plug? Do you have anything going on?
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you for having me. You can find me on Twitter at goshjosh525. Same with Instagram, same handle there. I have been doing some writing on occasion for a newsletter called White Rice. You can find that at whitericenews.com, I think is the website. I just wrote a piece on Spike Lee's films, a retrospective.
Nice.
That's about it right now. But hopefully more to come soon.
That's awesome. Well, thanks again for joining us, and we'd love to have you back for another. What was the movie you said you'd come back for? The Colin watch?
Van Helsing.
Yeah.
Although I don't know if maybe you want to edit that out for me too. We have a reputation in this town.
Well, it's not exactly a franchise yet.
Not yet. Exactly. Not if Paul Feig has anything to say about that.
All right, cool. Well, take care, dude.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, that's the end of this show. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.